Hello, Code Nation. Welcome back to the playlist project. This is session 4. And our goal for today is to use JavaScript to create and access data from an object. And so our vocabulary for today is object, property, key, value, dot notation, and bracket notation. So thinking about our playlist project, you probably have a bunch of arrays, and they might look something like this. I see 4 arrays here with each having 3 elements in the array. But nothing in this code is associating each artist with his or her song. So I know that Thank You Next is an Ariana Grande song, but my code doesn't know that. And I don't really know which runtime is associated with the Ariana Grande song, Thank You Next. And I don't know what picture goes with this song. And so that's a problem that we might want to address in our code. Everything kind of depends on the order in the array. And so I could probably guess, that like, oh, God's Plan is second in the array, Drake is second in the array. And so these things are all going to go together. But we really want to take the guesswork out of it because when you're coding, it's all about precision. So that's a problem. We want to associate these like pairs and values with each other. So we want to know that blank space is the Taylor Swift song, right? And so that's where objects come in. So we spent a lot of time learning about arrays as a data structure. Objects are just another data structure. And just like we use square brackets for arrays, we're going to use curly brackets to make objects in JavaScript. And all objects really are is a collection of properties and values that we're associating. So for example, we could have a property like song length, we could have a property like artist, and then we give it a value like Taylor Swift, a property like song with a value like blank space. So let's talk about how to make objects. Objects are a data structure in JavaScript that use these curly brackets, like I said before. So we are going to declare them the same way we declare a variable using the let keyword. And then we want to give it a name, and then those curly brackets, and then a semicolon at the end. So again, we're going to have properties and values, and you get to decide what those are. So maybe when we're looking at this apple object, we want to know the color, we want to know the type of food that it is, and we want to know how it tastes. And these values can be any data type that you want. We want them to be unique. So you can't have 2 color properties. That's not okay. We want each property to be unique within the object. The values don't have to be unique though. I can have a color for this fruit that's orange, and I can have the type of food be orange, and that's okay. So just to clarify here, what are the 3 types of values that we're seeing in this example? I see 4. Computer lab is a string, number of seats is a number, true is a Boolean, and then we have an array as another type. We have Emily and Michael. You might even see functions associated with an object, but we'll get to that much later. So to clarify here, what are the 4 properties? We have user ID, first name, last name, and followers. The first name is Selena, the last name is Gomez, and so on. This is my object called user. So now let's talk about how to make an object. Okay, I have a person here. I'm going to set my person equal to curly brackets. And now we have an object. That's it. It's so easy. We can give this person a first name. Let's see. We can give this person a last name. And now we're seeing these properties show up here because of this function. So each key in the object is showing up on the page here. So since she's a musician, let's give it a genre. I think Taylor Swift makes pop music. And so that's it. It's really as simple as having a collection of unique properties and objects. Go ahead and try out making your own object. So it's not enough to just have an object. We want to be able to manipulate it and do things with it. So let's talk about how to access from an object. So here, if we wanted to retrieve 25 from the classroom array, we would say classroom array sub 1, right? Because we start with index 0 and 25 is in the second position. So classroom 0, 1. From an object, we would want the number of seats from this classroom object. So there's two ways we're going to talk about to retrieve that. The first is called this bracket notation. And so we're putting this property number of seats in quotes. And that's going to give us that number that we're looking for, 25. And it's a little bit more clear what that number means versus just 1 doesn't really tell us what is this number that we're getting. So we have our object, we have a bracket, we have the property name in quotes, and then a closing bracket, and that's how we are printing out this value here. So to get the first name properties value, we would say user, and then open bracket, quotes, first name, close your quotes, close your brackets, add a semicolon, user, brackets, quotes, first name. If we wanted to get the followers property bracket, we do the same thing, user, brackets, quotes, followers. There's also the dot notation, and it's up to you which one you prefer. Same thing here, we have our object name and then a dot and then the property name following it. So same thing here, to get the information that we want, we just say user dot first name, user dot followers, user dot user ID, and there are different reasons why you might want to use each one. One thing I noticed is that it's fewer characters to use the dot notation as it stands here, but it's going to depend on lots of different things for you to decide which one you prefer. Another thing that's kind of cool about bracket notation is you're trying to decide. You can use variables for your property names with that bracket notation. Can't really do that with the dot notation. It gets a little funky. You can also use like special characters, but that's kind of ugly. Let's try accessing information from an object next. All right, I see a page called Hi, I'm Cooper. I have a button here that I want to create a click handler for. So I'm going to select the button in jQuery, and then I'm going to write my click handler here. It's gonna give the skeleton for it. Looks like I need to turn on jQuery. And when I click the information, I want to add everything here. And I see I have an example, so I'm just gonna follow that. I have this info section that's in an ID, so I use the hashtag here. I'm going to say the name is the info plus info name. Now when I click this button, it tells me the name is Cooper. Let's pull out his age here, and it gives me an age. So we used the bracket notation here, so let's use dot notation just to make sure we have them both down. I'm going to say info dot age, and then info dot weight. I'm going to use Control I to kind of clean up my code here, and I'm going to replace this here so that it's clear to whoever's reading this page. And that's how we are accessing Cooper's information to display it on the page. All right, so we're going to use objects in our playlist project. Your playlist project is done, it's beautiful, but we want to make it a little bit more efficient and show our new JavaScript knowledge of objects. So we're going to be refactoring. So it's like the Marie Kondo of coding. You have this code that you wrote. It might be kind of messy. We want to make sure that it's neat and organized and reusable so that other people see it and they recognize what a great coder you are. We're going to get rid of all our extra code. We're going to organize it so it's easy to read. And then we want to change the structure of it without really changing what it does for the user because your code works. And so one thing you might do in order to make your code reusable for other people is add comments. So a single line comment in JavaScript is going to be 2 flashes. And so the purpose of comments is to kind of explain what your code is doing. It's not going to run in the code. A multi-line comment is going to be a / and a star. To close it out, you're going to have a */. So my question to you is, how do you think you could use objects to refactor your playlist project? And in our work time, your goal is to comment out the code in your project that refers to your arrays and then create objects that are going to hold your song information. So you might have a song object for each song with the title, artist, link, and image, and make all of those things display and create a new object with the click handler as an idea. And as always, use your resources as your